I think you know by now that I love food. I love all kinds of food. And when I cook, sometimes I tend to get bored, and I like to reach for slightly unusual ingredients that I don't necessarily use when I cook very often, and I like to use those ingredients in unusual combinations. So enter beer cheese soup. Wow, beer is the star of the show in this soup, and it makes the cheese soup so phenomenal. So I just took some diced kielbasa out of the Dutch oven. I've been browning it, and it looks and smells delicious, and it's gonna be sort of the flavor foundation for the rest of the soup. So I'm adding some diced onion and a bunch of minced garlic. And I'll stir the veggies around just until they start to soften. You know, beer and cheese is not necessarily a revolutionary idea. There's beer and cheese fondue, and beer cheese soup totally exists. It's just not something that I tend to have in my cooking repertoire. First of all, I don't drink beer, so I don't have it in the fridge at all, usually. Lad's not a big beer drinker either, so it's just one of those things that every time I do cook with beer, I just think, why don't I do this more often? It's so tasty. And just like that, the onions and the garlic are nice and golden, and the onions are soft. So I will sprinkle in some flour, and that's gonna help thicken this beer cheese soup. And this pot is so hot that I'm gonna stir the flour into the onions, and I won't have to cook the flour for very long. The pot has nice dark brown bits from where I browned the kielbasa. And the kielbasa is actually to sprinkle on top of the soup. It's not gonna go in it. I kind of like leaving the soup just pure and holy, and then you can really taste the beer and cheese combination. All right, this soup moves pretty darn fast. It is already time to add the beer. And you can grab whatever beer you have in your fridge, just regular old beer. This is a lager. You could do any sort of dark or light or amber beer that you like. All right, so I'm pouring the whole bottle in, and I'm stirring as I go. And it's already starting to bubble up and thicken. Oh my gosh, that smells incredible. Usually whenever I make any kind of cheese soup, it's kind of a broccoli cheese situation, and it's usually for kids. So I haven't necessarily always thought to add a bottle of beer. But hey, the kids are grown and gone. I can add whatever I want to whatever recipe I'm making. All right, this mixture is really thick by now. So I'm going to add a bunch of chicken stock. Just slosh it right in. And in addition to the broth, I'm gonna add some cream. This is definitely not a soup you wanna make on the weeks you're trying to watch your calories. All right, stir that together. Oh, it still smells incredible. Add quite a bit of salt and a lot of pepper. I tell you, I don't really know the difference between this soup and beer and cheese fondue. It's very, very cheesy and very wonderful. Okay, now I just need to let it come to a boil. I'll stir it occasionally, and that's gonna take about 5 minutes. All right, the soup came to a boil. It almost boiled over the pot. I saved it just in time, and it is just the right consistency. Now it is time for the cheese. We've got the beer covered, and I have a big pile of sharp cheddar, and I like to just add about a handful at a time and stir it as I go. And obviously, this soup is so hot, it is not going to take long for this to melt. I really just love the combination of beer and cheddar, but of course, you could just use this as a blank canvas and add whatever cheese you like. It's also a really great way to use up little end pieces of cheese that might be sort of languishing in your cheese drawer. But I really love just cheddar. It's sort of that classic flavor. All right, I'm gonna save some to serve over the top of the bowl. I can't believe how quickly this comes together. And you can omit the sausage, or you could do bacon instead. You could do ham. It's a great way to use up kind of leftover ham after a holiday. I'm gonna stop stirring, and I'm gonna start serving. Starts with a great big serving of the soup. I started with a pretty big bowl, so fortunately I have to add quite a bit to make it count. Okay, you could also serve this in a bread bowl. That would be incredible. To me, part of the fun of a soup like this is adding toppings. So I have some sour cream. I'll just add a little dollop, and it'll just mix in with the soup as I eat it. Some green onions, delicious. And I'm gonna add another little sprinkle of black pepper because I think it'll look good and taste good. And then a little more cheddar. And finally, we cannot forget the kielbasa. Just kind of throw a little in the middle, and just like the sour cream, it'll just get mixed with everything else. All right. I'm not a beer drinker, but I might need to start keeping beer in my fridge just for beer and cheese soup like this. Goodness gracious, this looks good. It smells good. I'm getting ready to go in so I can confirm that it tastes good. Confirmed.